My message to the country is this. We are a nation of immigrants, and America is an idea. Sure, there are a couple of burned cars and people are waving other countries' flags, but that's L.A. That's what L.A. is about. Dance like nobody's watching, love like you've never been hurt, and skateboard like your dad isn't in prison.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brand John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, I don't know about you, but it's hard to believe that we're in the second week of December.
Yeah, and on Friday we were treated to a bunch of holiday puns from Jack Frost.
Yeah.
And I didn't go down to Main Street over the weekend, but I hear that it's a fantastic time. There was even a parade over the weekend.
You don't go down to Maine? You went there last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I just said I haven't made it down there yet.
Oh, okay, cool. You can't. I mean, you got kids. The kids enjoyed it, didn't your kids enjoy it last time?
We had a fantastic time. We sure did.
Good to hear. Okay, today's December 8th. It is a Monday. This is the Brad and John Show. We start things off by talking about John and his top 10, top 3, top 400. But first, let me give you a phone number, 956-WESTPLEX. If you want to make a comment about what we do on the air here, you can text us, or you can also leave a voicemail, which we will play back, not today, but at some future point in time. And do understand that if you do leave a voicemail on there, we have the right to use it on the air. So don't ever call me and say, hey, you never told me that was going to be on the air. So just don't say anything bad. 956-WESTPLEX, 956-937-8753. And if you're feeling bad about things, if you've done someone wrong and you want to essentially fess up to your sins, 557, I'm sorry. That's the I'm sorry line, 557, I'm sorry. John,
and that goes right to the IRS, right, Brad?
Yes.
Like if you want to confess of not reporting some earnings on Venmo, and then we also connect you. It's a funnel where we connect you to Lance Drury.
It depends on what you're confessing. It could go to the local police department, or it could go to,
Yeah, you know what? Always trust a former police dispatcher, right, Brad?
It could go to Dave Schatz because you haven't gotten your refund money yet, and he's going to laugh at you about the fact. Or could go to Adam Schnelting because of the fact that you drove at 60 miles an hour in the left lane all the way from Wright City to Kingdom City on I-70. So, okay, anyway.
There's a new proposal in the legislature to raise the top speed limit in the state of Missouri, and we will never discuss it in John's top 3, or else Brad will beat it to death.
That is John Combest. Every single day of his life puts together this incredible website. It's ironically called johncombest.com, Combest. All the things you need to know about the state of Missouri. It's like the Drudge Report, but just for the show me state. But what we do on this show, we bring in this gentleman right here. And your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do you do?
Now on with the countdown.
You do what again?
We're on our way to the number 1.
What is it you do?
And here they are.
And what do you start with?
In third place,
we have kind of a feel-good story in the top 3. We have kind of a feel-bad story. And then we have a correction story. Excuse me. Let's start with the feel-good story. And I should say it's a feel-good story if you like long-running dramas with a lot of hysteria, maybe a little bit of overreaction, and a long-running storyline that's going to keep you hooked for years. I'm talking about the Wentzville School District. And Brad, we're not talking about the fact that they had a superintendent who left. We've talked about superintendents coming and going in the St. Louis area. We've talked about that over and over again. This is one that we haven't talked about for a few months. The Wentzville transgender bathroom lawsuit gets a trial date. Now, if you love long-running narratives, this story began, at least the first real news event, more than 2 years ago, June 2023. The school board got together and said, okay, we got to talk about these transgender bathroom issues. We can come up with a policy. Let's come up with a policy that clearly defines if we're going to allow men, biological boys or 18-year-old men, in women's locker rooms, girls' locker rooms, and girls' bathrooms. So the board got together in a closed session in 2023. And frequent observers of government meetings and the Sunshine Law will note that I said closed meeting. And some folks didn't like that it was a closed meeting. And among those folks that didn't like that the meeting was closed was AG Andrew Bailey. Now, see, a couple members of the school board smartened him up. They gave him a little tip. Those board members were named Jennifer Olson and Renee Hinke. Both of those ladies are still on the Wentzville School Board. And in fact, their 3-year terms are up in April. So remember that date, April, Brad. So Andrew Bailey said, hey, dudes and dudettes on the school board, you can't just discuss a transgender policy without allowing parents and taxpayers in the district the right to know. They have the right to know what's being discussed. Lawyers at the school board were actually passing around to the board a proposed transgender bathroom and locker room policy. I'm leaving out the important data point here, Brad, and I apologize for that. A judge in St. Charles County set the trial date for that lawsuit about closing the transgender discussion meeting. She set that lawsuit for September 2026. That's right, 10 short months from now. This case will go to trial. And so finally, we're going to have an answer we're going to start to have an answer of whether or not the Wentzville School District was wrong to have a closed session. Now, I mentioned earlier that the school board ladies are up for re-election. I guess if they choose to run for re-election, they'll be on the ballot in April. So I guess the good news, Brad, is that in Wentzville, we can have an election in which one of the topics will be transgender students in bathrooms and locker rooms. Now, Brad, if I recall correctly, you have some sort of a position on whether school boards should be weighing in on transgender issues and other topics. Do you have a position on that, Brad?
John, this whole thing's ridiculous. It can be solved so simply, so simply. The locker room thing and the bathroom thing. You just get like a maintenance closet or something like that. You throw a toilet in there, you throw a sink in there, and you just put on the door LGBTQIA restroom. And
there you go, Brad. And folks, I'm sorry to interrupt, but folks could be able to use that if any particular day you identify as a non-binary or as some sort of human that is not your real scientific biological sex. You could go in there and use it, is what you're saying.
Right. And then you do the same thing with a locker room. You find some rooms, like some storage room off the gym that they keep the basketballs in or stuff like that. You put a toilet in there, you put a sink in there, and you call that the LGBTQIA locker room. And see, now they have their own locker room and their own restroom with their identity on the door. Get what I'm saying,
I think
John?
that's a pretty reasonable compromise. And think of how much the unions in St. Charles County would like it, because they would make the argument, well, you got to put one of them there showers in there. We can't have no scab labor making one of them there showers in there. We're going to bring in the pipe fitters. We're going to bring in the carpenters. We're going to bring in all the people, maybe the laborers. They can make it too.
You know, the whole thing to me is every time we talk about this garbage, it's to the point where we're not talking about educating our kids. And we are further in the world falling behind and behind and behind. And it just bothersome to me. And yet you got guys like Mike Rowe who are going like, hey, look at me, dirty jobs. Lots of guys who are working, and gals working with their hands, manual labor, skilled trades, making a bunch of money, but yet most of the schools, although I will say some of them are finally coming around. If you've seen what's going like with, we talked about that last week with the scholarships. Remember we talked about that last week with
the Metallica
scholarships, where and there's 5 different programs at ECC. I got to find out if St. Charles Community College is involved in that as well too. But I don't know. The thing's just, So what's the old saying? You keep your eye on the ball, and if you're a school board member, and that's what you're designed to do, or not designed. That's what your job is to do, to teach kids, to turn out kids who can read and write and have some life experiences. None of this other garbage. It's just, to me, it's just ridiculous. And
I think, my asterisk to that, Brad, is I think some of it is ridiculous. But I also think that if you had a kid that was in the Wentzville School District that was a girl, and you heard that there might be a chance that biological boys would be wanting to change clothes in her locker room, you'd probably want the school district to come up with some kind of a policy. So you wouldn't want the school board to stick their head in the sand and say it didn't happen. You'd probably want them to take a stand, even though that doesn't have to do with reading and writing and arithmetic. You get what I'm saying?
Well, you gave me the situation there. I would not be upset about it. I wouldn't.
Okay, and with 6 minutes left, let's maybe get to story number 2.
Okay, let's go to number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
A headline this weekend from the Warren County Record. And I should note that you can read the full story coming up this Thursday in the Warren County Record and the print edition of it. Excuse me. But over the weekend, they printed a teaser, the first part of the story. Former Warren County assessor, Wendy Nordwald, her last name is Cosma now. Wendy Nordwald Cosma was found in criminal contempt and remanded into custody at the Warren County Jail following her hearing on Friday. That was just December 5th. Now, Brad, you may recall this story. You have intimate knowledge of the Warren County Assessor's Office, if I recall correctly. But Miss Cosma, we'll call her Mrs. Cosma, got in a lot of trouble a few years ago because she had had a leadership role. And I'm reading, by the way, I want to give credit not only to the Warren County Record here, but a newspaper in Florida called the Highlands News Sun. Years ago, starting around 2011 to 2020, Cosma allegedly wrote 196 Missouri State Assessors Association. She was an officer there. She allegedly wrote 196 checks to herself over that 9-year period, many of which had a memo line for, quote, reimbursement. And a vast majority of those were written to herself for an even dollar amount. And as another example in the case, she had a monthly automatic debit from the Missouri State Assessors Association, was paid every month to Planet Fitness. So it appeared as though, she was convicted of taking these funds from the State Assessors Association and paying herself for reimbursements that were not real. So let's bring this back to Warren County, Brad. What the judge said the other day is that that Nordwald, we'll call her Nordwald here too, because that's, I think, how most people would remember her. Nordwald did not produce the documents that the judge said she had to produce. And the judge said, look, we need all of your bank records starting back in, I believe the judge said going back to 2017 now, that would show whether or not she had actually reimbursed some of this stuff, whether or not any of the reimbursement claims were real. And Nordwald never produced the documents. She had been given a whole lot of time to produce the documents, and she didn't. And the judge said, why we're here today is we don't have the information. The state doesn't have the information that I ordered you to provide to the state. And the judge spanked Nordwald by saying, this is a very, very serious matter. The judge said that Nordwald has essentially ignored the judge's order for the tax returns and bank statement. So anyway, Brad, excuse me for pausing there, because I'm comparing these two different stories, one from Florida where Cosma moved to, where Nordwald moved to after she got in trouble, and then this most recent story from the Warren County Record. So it's a shame, Brad, because this woman had been, elected assessor. And if the name Nordwald sounds familiar, Brad, you probably remember the era of Charlie Nordwald. Does that name ring a bell?
It does, and I know her, by the way.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah,
okay, and not to interrupt, because I want to get to that in a second. Charlie Nordwald, as best I can tell, and you may be able to smart me up on this, as best I can tell, that is Charlie's sister-in-law. So from doing a little online research last night, I actually found an obituary, and I guess a woman had passed away who had 4 kids. Charlie was one of them, and then one of the other sons married Wendy, as I gather it. So I think that is Charlie Nordwald's sister-in-law. So Brad, I didn't know that you knew Wendy.
Not real well. I've had some official dealings with her. Matter of fact, probably my most interesting one was, you remember I told you the crap transmitter site is surrounded by the village of Three Creeks, which the farmers had put into, and they keep a secret. Matter of fact, it's funny. I met a guy the other day who says, you're from KSOQ. Do you still have your studios in Washington? And I go, no, we moved out. And he started talking about he lived in Washington for like 20 years. I go, you're still an outsider. And we laughed about that. And I go, hey, when you drive north of 47, you drive across the Missouri River Bridge into Warren County. What city are you in? And the ultimate question, he goes, well, you're not in any city. That's Warren County. No, there's a village of Three Creeks. Years ago, when I was having another battle with the farmers, I tried to get a map of the village of Three Creeks, and I ended up in the assessor's office, and I had a guy who would not print me a map. You know, imagine this. I'm asking for a map of a district because they keep this a secret. So Wendy heard it and came over and was very nice and actually, I would say, somewhat flirted with me a little bit. And can I tell you something, John?
Yeah, please do.
When you go to a government office, how are most of the people dressed?
They are dressed as if they walked out of a J.C. Penney catalog from 1986.
Okay. Wendy was not. Wendy was in a very, very attractive dress, and
is this a statement about décolletage?
No décolletage, but
okay.
But she did have it's funny you should mention that because she had a dress on that had like holes in it, like in the sleeves and stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about? You know which?
Those are generally called peekaboo dresses.
So she printed me out a map, and this is actually sort of funny. The only map she could print me was 6 feet by 6 feet, and she put this on the big old monstrous Hewlett-Packard plotter printer. And
I know what you're talking about.
To this day, I have it. Matter of fact, if I were to walk into the next studio, it's laying against the wall in a big cardboard tube, and it's the official map of the village of Three Creeks, and it's 6 feet tall by 6 feet wide. That's my, and she was very nice to me. You know, she charged me, I think she charged me $35 for the map or something like that. And she said, anything you need, you know how to get a hold of me. And she gave me her card. How's that, John?
Wow, fantastic, Brad. And I'm not a story topper, but I did meet Mrs. Nordwald years ago when I thought she was incredibly kind and gregarious. And and that's why, like, you read the story and you're like, dang it. I mean, it appears as though there's a preponderance of evidence that this actually happened, and that's unfortunate, you know?
Yeah, and she treated me better than any of the people in Warren County. Normally, when I walk in, the people know who I am. Matter of fact, the collector knows me by first name. Hi, Brad. What do you want? That's what she says.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You don't like that at all, do you, Brad?
We ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it, Brad.
The number one.
I want to give an appropriate follow-up to something we featured prominently on Friday in A Block. Friday's show was, what was it, Brad? December 5th on Friday. So if you listen to A Block, excuse me, we talked about Cori Bush, and Politico reported that Cori Bush had contributed $250,000 to the anti-redistricting effort, the progressive anti-redistricting effort in the state of Missouri. Well, Brad, after we got off the air, around 9 o'clock St. Louis time, which had been, so you think about it, we had been off the air about an hour. My website had been updated for about 2 hours with the story up. The reporter from Politico corrected his story. Here's what he wrote. We misstated donors to people, not politicians. A group affiliated with former Democratic Rep Cori Bush did not donate. That's a pretty big mistake. So, Brad, considering how prominently and I should take accountability here, how prominently I featured this Politico piece expressing skepticism, dare I say, that Cori Bush could afford to give $250,000 to this anti-redistricting effort. It turns out skepticism was well placed. Politico, a leading political source, got it wrong. Cori Bush did not give $250,000. So I said we should be surprised by this and skeptical and inquire about it. Yeah, it turns out that Cori didn't actually give $250,000, Brad.
Well, was there $250,000 given? And if so, by who?
Yeah, it doesn't. So the gentleman didn't correct the story to say whether or not who gave the mystery $250,000. Now, that information, so large progressive groups nationwide, dark money groups, as they're known, have given huge sums, $50,000 at a time, $250,000 at a time, have given sums to this anti-redistricting campaign. So at my fingertips now, Brad, I don't have the answer to which group it was. There have been some national liberal groups that have given to this effort, though. So want to stand corrected, Brad. I cited the Politico piece. Politico was wrong. I'm glad we were able to highlight it, and I'm glad that it was corrected.
This whole redistricting thing is such a screw up. You know, I mean, right now, are we on the 20?
We are. Yep. The districts are in effect right now until a judge says otherwise, Brad.
So the new districts are in effect.
That's exactly right, Brad.
So if the judge
and we
says,
should operate as if they are. Now, will the maps get thrown out? As we've discussed many times on this show, I believe the maps will probably get thrown out. But yes, Governor Kehoe signed the measure into law, Brad.
You know what the problem was going on with state government right now?
What's that, Brad?
We don't have Dave Schatz in state government.
I think so. Hey, while we're talking about big elderly folks, like sturdy folks, let's talk for a second, Brad, before we go to break, about Cori Bush. So when I was looking up the Cori Bush contributions, I saw a number of her posts on social media in the last few weeks. She's got a new gimmick. Some catchphrase she has now is that the people want someone who go flipping over tables. I guess like make it a big scene in DC. That's her new gimmick. She's used it on social media posts. And I linked to a piece yesterday, a nationwide piece in which she said, people want me up there again, flipping over tables. Now, I weigh in on Mark McCloskey and the fact that I comment on his selfies that he posts to social media shirtless. So I feel because I comment on Mark McCloskey and him posting, half-naked selfies, and I say that he should be an advocate for testosterone replacement therapy because hypothetically, if he's on it, he should talk about it and encourage men to enjoy the last few years of their life with TRT. Brad, my point is, Cori Bush looks phenomenal. Have you seen any of these posts like in the last month?
No, she lost a lot of weight.
She looks fantastic. Yes. She has a waist, which is something you ordinarily wouldn't associate with Cori Bush. And again, I think that if I weigh in on Mark McCloskey posting shirtless selfies at the age of 69, nice, or 70, whatever he is now, Brad, Cori Bush looks phenomenal. And if I worked for Cori, I would have a conversation with her. And I would say, hey, Cori, if you're comfortable with it, I think you should talk about the advantage of GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy, excuse me. And if Cori's comfortable about it, I think if she happens to have been on a GLP-1 drug, the Biden administration wanted Medicare and Medicaid to cover these GLP-1 drugs, semaglutide drugs. And, Republicans obviously were like, no, we're not spending any more money on healthcare. But if I was working for Cori, I'd say, hey, Cori, if you're comfortable, when people come up to Cori at events, they're telling her now, Cori, you look great. And she's got to be like, oh, yeah, I'm on the campaign trail. I'm exercising. I'm eating right. But if maybe she's got a little help medically, I think it would behoove her to say, hey, you know what? It's this Ozempic. It's this Wegovy. Like, it's really helping me. It's really helping me lose weight and be more healthy. That's one of the reasons why I want to improve our healthcare system in America. We need people to be able to take these drugs that can help them.
John, are you old enough to remember the term detente? Do you know what detente was?
I do, yeah. It was used during the Cold War a lot. It means a state of unease yet peace.
Right. What you don't know is Mark McCloskey has that home in the Central West End. He has his own home gym. And Mark has opened his home gym to Cori Bush, and they work out together. So that's
beautiful, Brad.
That's why he's looking so darn good, and that's why she's looking so darn good.
Maybe they work out together. That's passionate.
I just dropped my Salvation Army bell. Okay, we have to take a break because we are right on time again.
Hey, you know what? I had to comment on how good Cori looks. Tomorrow we'll be back to criticizing her, Brad, but I think Cori Bush looks fantastic.
And you know what's sad about that whole story is you and I were both skeptical. She gave $250,000 to this group, and when our skepticism paid off, didn't it?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Brad.